There are several things to consider when putting your screen onto the screen print press. The first thing is that you want to make sure you put the image side correctly so that the top of the image will be printed on the top of the shirt. And then you screw in the compression so that the screen will stay in place for a tight fit. You also want to consider where the image will land when it hits the t-shirt. Another thing you'll want to consider is its position from side to side so that your image is centered on your final product. Your first prints will be on a piece of paper. That is to make sure that you like the way your print looks. It's also to make sure that there's extra ink isn't getting through onto the paper. Next, you'll want to get your supplies. You'll need a squeegee and a spatula along with the ink that you're going to use. Cleanup will be easier if you put newspaper under your ink and under your spatula and squeegee. Some people like to put tape down on the printing board panel so that they know where their image is going to hit, and that is a good idea. Notice that the screen has tape around the edges to make sure that ink doesn't go off of the emulsion coating and get on the shirt in places that you don't want it. The ink is going to go through the yellow parts of the screen, and the emulsion will block the ink from going through the rest of the screen. You want to make sure that the tape is down securely so that it's not going to peel up, and then you want to open up the ink and spread the ink onto the screen using the spatula. Some people prefer to use a lot, other people prefer to use just a little. However much you use, you want to make sure at the end you scrape off the extra ink back into the container. Next, you'll use the squeegee and pull the ink across the screen so that little bits of ink go into your image and onto the paper. The things you're looking for with the paper are how many times you need to squeegee across. Is one time enough? Should I go back and forth? Should I go side to side? Those are the kind of things you want to be testing on the paper. In squeegeeing, you want to make sure that you have a even coating with your hand placement, and you really do need to press down using the strength in your arms. Notice how the student doesn't just stick the spatula into the ink container, and that's to keep the ink from getting on the handle of the spatula. To prevent your paper from sticking to your screen, you can spray some textile adhesive, and that will keep the paper down on the board. Things you want to look for is all of your image coming through on the print, and then do I have some extra ink coming through that I need to deal with. The paper would also need to be cured because the ink won't dry. Next, you would put your shirt on. Notice how the student is sliding the shirt onto the board with the neck in closest to the student. You want to make sure that your shirt is centered, because wherever your shirt is, the screen is just going to fall right into the exact same place over and over again. So the positioning of your shirt is very important. When you go to turn in your final evaluation, you want to make sure you're not turning your shirt in, but you're turning one of those paper prints in. The boards adjust so that you can get the proper placement. Typically, images sit about 4 inches from the neck of the shirt, depending on the size of the image and the end result that you're looking for. You also want to make sure your shirt is flat. You don't want any kind of wrinkles that can distort your image. The student is just checking to make sure before pressing it all the way down that they like where the image is going to be located. Notice how the student scrapes the ink off the squeegee and puts it back down so that it can continue to be used. Right now, it's extremely important that the image doesn't touch any other part of the shirt. So to take the shirt off, you need to pull the shirt off, lifting it up. Typically, having help is nice. And then move it to the heat press so that it can be cured. You want to cure it for 15 seconds at 325 degrees.